pastoral care has always been with me. Lois actually used to always call the customers at Nico my flock.
Wow.
Pastor Paul looking after his flock.
Wow.
And so it was that care, it was that empathy, it was the ensuring everyone was okay. And at Nico it was quite different because you had the people coming 2-3 times a day for coffee.
Yeah.
Certain people, I can still remember probably easily a dozen orders like that, you know.
You must pass them in the supermarket and think, oh, there goes cappuccino.
Herbie Scrams. Yeah.
There go Herbie Scrams.
Herbie Scrams, yeah, exactly.
In places like Melbourne and London and Hong Kong and LA, etc., service is just, it's so much more revered than it is here in New Zealand. Why do you think that is?
I think it's changing a little bit. I do think there is a little shift.
You know, we've all been in hospitality. We've got a bit of experience sitting around the table here, and we all know that hospitality or service won't always run smoothly. Ooh. And I'm going to go on a little segue here because I know at Rita, you've got a little table there. It's nicknamed, have I got this right? The curse table? Is that what we call it?
It's jinxed.
It's jinxed?
It's
the
very much
jinxed table?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about this, the jinxed table?
The Kitchen Day podcast is proudly supported by Boring Oat Milk, taking care of the boring detail so you can focus on the important stuff, like your morning coffee. All right, we'll get into a quick bio for Paul. Today we are joined by Mr. Paul Schrader, co-owner and front of house lead at Rita in Wellington's Aro Valley. Paul's name is synonymous with authentic, warm and heartfelt service. His intuition is as razor sharp as his wit. Many in this industry regard him as one of the best to ever do it. In the late 90s, Paul helped open Nikau Cafe at City Gallery, a key early chapter in Wellington's cafe and dining evolution. More recently, in 2017, he and Calder founded Rita, operating out of a charming workers' cottage, offering a nightly set menu in 2 seatings. Paul's presence on the floor, his careful choreography of every guest interaction, and his ability to read a room are central to what makes Rita's experience so revered. Please welcome a master of service, a storyteller of hospitality, and a man who brings grace and heart to every table, Mr. Paul Schrader. So, Paul, you've been doing this a long time.
I have.
What keeps it fresh for you?
Good question. I think a friend of mine once said to me that they try to have a friend or someone in their life from every decade of their life. Mm-hmm. And so they have, someone in their earlies, their teens and what have you. And I've noticed that I've started to aspire to that too through the young people I work with.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I find that every time I go to work, there's another little story, there's another little anecdote, there's another little perspective on how a different generation live in this world that we live in. Mm-hmm. And from my way of thinking, that's really good for someone, dare I say, at my age, to be surrounded by younger people.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. I mean, I could quite happily work with my contemporaries and it would bring me joy, but the joy that I derive from going to work and being around people who have different perspectives, different life experiences. And I guess there's some sense that you also nurture them. Mm-hmm. So there's that kind of pastoral element to being a restaurateur, to being someone involved in hospitality, to looking after the people that you're around. And I feel like we do that well at Rita. Mm-hmm. We have a good community of people, and we've been through, Nico days, 20 years of running a cafe like that. We've certainly had a lot of staff through that. And you also just forge out a good philosophy about what it is you're doing, because for so long, working in restaurants, working in hospitality was seen as a kind of secondary occupation, It was
just a transient.
It's just a transient. Yeah. A really good example is that a young friend of mine was at a mayoral debate the other night, and he asked a really interesting question. He said, as a 21-year-old working in hospitality, 20-year-old, what are the sort of policies that you present that would make me want to stay in Wellington as a young person wanting to stay in hospitality and wanting to stay in Wellington?
That's a great question.
Great question, and some really good answers. And a lot of them were around creating a dynamic environment events, things happening. But one particular mayoral candidate, I won't name them, but they should know better, said, well, when you get a real job,
Oh my God.
Oh, wow. Okay.
these are the things that will be good for you. And, that attitude surely should have been dead and
Wellington
buried.
thrives when hospitality is doing well. Once again, we're talking about friends here. A friend of mine said, when Wellington is doing poorly, hospitality is doing poorly.
Yeah.
When hospitality is doing well, Wellington is doing well. So
Absolutely.
when you have someone say that to you, that's quite confronting, right? You're like, oh, cool, great. So I don't matter.
No, that's right.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's just sad
Yep.
Yeah,
because it is a profession.
100%.
And it's a profession that a lot of people choose, not just fall into.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a perfect example because you've had a very long career. You've worked in a couple of very, very successful cafes in Wellington. For me, I would say that you're the perfect example of somebody who's made a fantastic career out of hospitality. And you're an industry leader and a good example for the young generation in hospitality at the moment to look up to and go, well, if Paul's done it and he's done it so well and he's got a fantastic team working around him, then I can do that as well.
Well, that's nice of you to say. And I think it is. You have to be aspirational in the way that you look at your career. And you do need role models. Any profession needs role models, things that you can aspire to. I'll give you a little story about, and it's from Melbourne. Mary and I first, when we got married, we went to Melbourne to kind of forge our relationship, and she was a graduate architect. She wanted to continue on her postgrads, and I was a teacher at the time and wanted to go and do some work in Melbourne around art education and do something like that. We were walking up Collins Street and walked past Florentino's, and in the window I saw a waiter. I would say he was 70, working the floor. And at that point I went, oh my goodness, it is a career that you can achieve. There is a longevity in working in restaurants. And I remember having a little moment going, I could do this, because I was thinking I was going to be a school teacher, an art educator, those sort of things. And I ended up getting a job, as you do, in the local bar, and my eyes were open to this whole career. And it was really lovely to have this little moment, this little incidental moment of going, there's a person who's probably worked in the restaurant all their life, and of which they were a captain on the floor, I presume, beautiful waistcoat,
Yes,
lovely, the tablecloth. So it was a good realisation for me that, I could do this.
This is what I love about these podcasts, because Paul, I've known you for quite a long time and I never knew that you were a teacher. I didn't know what your previous life was to hospitality. Such a great eye-opener, right?
Yeah.
So you've gone to Melbourne with your lovely wife.
Yeah.
And is that your first introduction to hospitality? Was that your first taste?
No. I guess we need to go back a little bit. My mother and father, Margaret and Warren, mum's from a family of teachers. Warren is from a family of teachers, but also his family had tea rooms in Timaru and a little catering company. And so there's this kind of parallel thing, teaching and the food world.
Yep.
So when I was 13, my older brother Ben got me a job washing dishes at a little place called Nomads, which is on Tunakuri Road, is now Hillside.
Yep, I know where you are.
Sat 12 people. My job was to wash dishes and make the Greek salad. 7 black olives. Wow.
Yes.
No more, no less.
You still remember that.
Somebody had their cogs sorted.
Totally, yeah. So I always worked a week for Steve at Brer Fox.
Yep.
You got through school and you always worked in restaurants and things like that. So I did do that. But then I did go teacher training.
Yep.
I don't think I was the best teacher. I suspect I probably wasn't a great.
Were you teaching here in Wellington?
I was teaching at Belmont Primary School out the Hut. And at the time I was really into ultimate frisbee.
Right.
So one of my things, kind of...
Just learn more and more.
How I manipulated the kids was, like, if they were getting a bit ratty, I had this big bag of frisbees beside my desk, and there was a little grassy knoll outside the classroom, and I would go stand on the grassy knoll And I would just throw frisbees as far as I could, and the kids would go and chase them and bring them back to me.
Yeah.
And that was the way. I don't know if that was entirely appropriate.
I
think
like
in this
watch
current
these days,
education
maybe.
regime, it
Sounds
might
like
not
a lot
be.
of play-based learning, which
Wow,
is,
yeah.
I advocate for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and then I got to a point one day, the principal came and said, "Hey, Paul, do you really want to be a school teacher?" And I'm like,
You picked it.
yeah, that's right. And so, no. And then, then we moved to Melbourne. I worked for a little bit and then moved to Melbourne. And I was thinking that I would actually continue my teaching in a shape or form around art education. But as I mentioned earlier, got a job in a place called the Dogs Bar on Ackland Street. Worked with some great people. It was like the community. Mary worked in the deli down the road. You got to know a whole lot of people. Suddenly it was this sense of purpose and enjoyment.
That's it.
That's it. Suddenly you get the bug. It's in your blood. It's very hard to extricate that from your veins.
Back to that encounter through the window on Collins Street in Melbourne with that waiter. That took me immediately back to Melbourne because I would say 2 or 3 of the greatest waiters I've ever worked alongside were in their late 60s and had either found it as a career early on or had chosen it as a career. And I remember at the time, very young and sort of inexperienced and still of the mindset that hospitality was my for now job until I figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up. I remember thinking, gosh, that's so interesting that they've chosen this life and they seem really content, really happy and really fulfilled. They were earning great money and both of them had houses that they'd bought and were paying mortgages on off what my dad would call, a waiter's salary. But it was the perception around service. And in places like Melbourne and London and Hong Kong and LA, etc., service is it's so much more revered than it is here in New Zealand. Why do you think that is?
I guess traditions, longevity of restaurants, and it always has been the uni job. I think it's changing a little bit. I do think there is a little shift where people are starting to realise that there is a way forward to, to buy yourself a house, to make your way in the world through restaurants. Scale, money, big cities, Melbourne, London, big cities where they can, we all have our constraints around running restaurants now, and they're becoming tighter and tighter and tighter, as you well know. So we can't possibly pay people as much as we'd like to do those sort of jobs. But also, it's a physically hard job, isn't it? Like, it's taxing.
Well, yeah.
It is a taxing job.
Physically and mentally. You're expected to be on.
You're on.
Come on, Paul, I've just come into your restaurant. Why aren't you smiling?
Yeah, that's
you're not allowed to have a bad day.
No.
That's kind of how it's perceived, right?
So that's right. You're always on.
So it is very draining. You finish your shift, you go home and you just collapse, right?
Well, in a lot of ways, yeah. And, for some people, they finish their shift and they'll have a drink or 2 or 10. And, there's that slightly dark side of hospitality, which is the well-being of people, and the mental health and the nighttime nature of restaurants lends to that in some ways.
Which we're tending to get a bit more aware of now, right?
Very much so. I think that's one of the
Mental
great
health is a big
movements
thing, right?
that's occurred, and Dom, you've been really vocal about this, that we need to look after the health of our dare I say, kids in our spaces.
Well,
it's the for too long it's been, the cracks have been plastered over because that's what hospitals. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
Harden up.
Yeah,
take that concrete pill.
Yeah.
And
100%.
And I know, Tommy talked about it at his kitchen days. The mental well-being of our staff and just our contemporaries. It's imperative that we look after each other.
You're 100% right. And what you said before, I thought that was such a beautiful answer about keeping people of all ages in your life and around you, all those different perspectives. We could talk, many of us in the industry, certainly those of us who've been in the industry a long time, can talk about how different the new generation of hospitality professionals is coming through the ranks and the priorities that they have in their lives that maybe we didn't have. And I've found myself, when that change started to occur, there can be times where you find yourself sort of scoffing or rolling your eyes, but really I would say that this younger generation has brought such a renewed and sort of breath of fresh air and a real wake-up call to our industry about what they will and won't tolerate and what we have. I mean, for so long, lack of sleep, turning up to work hungover or maybe still drunk or
just
high
dusty,
or whatever. You know, back-to-back doubles that would absolutely kill you, not seeing your family, not seeing your partner, et cetera, et cetera. We used to wear those things like badges of honour.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's nothing to be proud about.
Yeah, it was
There's
this club that you belonged to.
It was this unique,
proud,
it was almost like you were trauma bonded to the others that were...
Trauma bonded, that's a great description.
You know, that were going through the same thing. But ultimately, at the end of the night, when your head finally does hit the pillow and you're on your own, you look around and you realise that there's actually not that much that's happy about your life, and what's the point of that, you know? And so I really welcome this new age of hospitality where people are thinking about what are the kind of hours that are conducive to a happy, healthy life, you know? What's the kind of culture that is going to fill up my cup every day, as opposed to me working in a toxic space with, you know, tolerating toxic personalities.
And I think this is something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we caught up. Paul, it kind of resonated with me. You said that something that's really important to you at your current restaurant, Rita, is that you get together for a staff meal before each shift.
Oh, yes.
You know, and this is your way of connecting with your staff. I guess, you know, in the old days when you used to get ready for a shift, you'd come in and take a shot of whatever and an espresso shot, and then you were on. Right? But, you know, you're there bonding with the staff, making sure they're all on the same page. You know, you say you've got different ranges of ages there, you know, and you're looking after your staff well-being.
The staff lunches, it's become... What's it become? It's part of our day just because we need to feed people. You know, you can't have an army on an empty stomach.
Yep.
So you do staff meal as a staff lunch every day?
Lunch, yeah. So there's because the sort of the weight of the day for Rita is really weighted towards
Evening.
the early morning. Well, no, the early morning day in terms of prep. It's so prep heavy.
Yep.
And so sitting down for lunch, it's just the best thing in the world, because and you surround yourself with people that you know will bring a little something to lunch. Like there's not an expectation, but there's always a little sense of,
you look forward to it.
oh, you do look forward to it, just because you're hungry.
Of course.
And it's always good food.
Yes.
But it's something, it's about breaking bread together. And it's interesting, it's become an element of our hiring policy. How will a potential staff person ingratiate themselves into lunch?
How they turn up to the table.
So
Will they leave their
fit?
In some ways.
Okay.
Will they be part of that culture? And there are some times at lunch where we just stare out the window and laugh at people's parking in the street, which is a bit cool. But other times there's some really in-depth discussions around what's happening globally and what's happening in the industry and and it's so good to get people's perspectives over and above your own. And so coming back to that thing that I was talking about in terms of hiring policy, like it's how will that person fit in? Not necessarily if they even do join lunch, but if if they only have a nighttime worker, but would they fit into that little moment in time?
So this has been a real common theme with a couple of people now that Dom and I have spoken to, that's something that when you're hiring, or when people are hiring, that's what they're looking for. They're saying, look, team fit is so important. Essentially, we should be able to teach people the skills the necessary skills, but you can't teach people how to fit into a team and to get on and bond.
Absolutely. We learned that really early on at Nico. I would always look for people that I knew would fit the environment, would fit our ethos, would slot in. The skills come.
Yeah.
The skills come. That's not a problem.
So what kinds of things specifically are you looking for, and how are you seeing them?
I think it's just talking to people, initially. Obviously, you need to trial people and find out what skills they have, and if they've got those greater skills, bonus. But if they've got an ability to be confident, warm, welcoming, look you in the eye, ask the right questions, sometimes there's just, I think the more you do it, the more you're able to intuit that they're the right person. It's not a political game, although, sometimes I would consider, the politics of someone would be.
It's a factor.
It's a factor, of course.
Yep.
But I think you start to just get a feel for it. You know, the more you do it, you get a feel for it. And often if I was interviewing someone, often there wouldn't be even questions relating to the cafe. You know, we would just talk about them, their family, what their aspirations were. And I mean, that's not unusual, I'm sure, but it just, you start to draw out the qualities of that person.
So for anybody who might be listening today, who maybe is in service, maybe they're new in the service industry, particularly front of house, or more seasoned professionals who maybe are now recruiting for their own teams, can you give me some examples of things that might endear you to an applicant, or things that you like to see in somebody who you might be recruiting for the floor at Rita? I know it's really hard to articulate.
It is hard to, but I think also one of the things that happens in Wellington, and it's not unique to Wellington, is that it's not 6 degrees of separation.
It's half a degree.
It's less than half a degree.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. And if you get a
true.
recommendation from one of your workers,
Yes.
bang on.
Bang
Great.
on.
You know, straight away they've got a foot in the door. I'll always check to see if they've dined with us, so that they have some appreciation of what it is we do. Or, you know, there'll be discussion around what it is that they like when they go out. What do they like to receive? What are the sort of characteristics of a waiter that they like to, you know, to be the recipient of? I'll talk sport. I'll talk football. I'll talk baseball. You know, if sometimes music, you know, cultural things that just get a little bit of the flow going. I have this really strong opinion that, well, it's not an opinion, it's just how we operate, is that working in restaurants is essentially storytelling. I remember someone saying it was like a play. And I don't quite agree with that. I think it's much more individual thing. I think when you talk about play, you're talking about actors and you're talking about pretense. But I think for us, or particularly my way of looking at things, is that when someone comes into our restaurant, there's a backstory, there's a narrative, and it's our job to just extract that. And it might be just a little haiku, or it might be, you know, the works of Shakespeare. In some shape or form, it's a story to be told, and it's your job to hear that story and then act on it. And when I say that, we're talking about what sort of day they've had, what sort of expectations they have in terms of coming to the restaurant, where they sit and kind of wanting to have their hand held and walked through the dining experience, or whether they're just a bit standoffish and just want to have that moment. And so in my head, there's always a desire to pinpoint whether other people can understand that as a concept. A guy that works my kind of little offsider at the moment, his name's Jesse Sherlock.
And he is wonderful. I've come up to your restaurant a couple of times and experienced his service, and he is on point. Yeah,
really on point. And it's in the surname, Sherlock, because he goes digging. He goes digging, and he goes digging. And he always finds a little something that he connects with. Yeah. And he passes that on to me, and we do the same. That's our little MO, is that you create a little kind of little hermetically sealed moment with those customers where you are part of their little moment, and you have some intel, you have some understanding of who they are for those 2 hours that they're in your restaurant. Because for us, Rita is really about that moment of you coming to our house. You know, it's always.
So is that how you look at your service, Paul? Someone is coming to your house? Because if someone asks me how to explain your style of service, I can't. Because I can't quite pinpoint what it is, but you have this amazing knack of being there at the right time, saying just the amount of words, and then when you leave, you're just like, I just want Paul to say a little bit more. And you know, I mean, my wife and I have been there a few times, let's just say a few times, and you are always there at the right time. You know when to pour, you know when to ask, you know when to ask if everything's all right. You're never getting in the way, but you're there just at the right time. So what's your approach to that service? How do you do that? Because I want to know your secret.
We'll bottle it and I can sell it. Yeah. I think by definition of Rita, like it's a cottage. So in the sense, physically, it is a house. It's a home. It's a walk-in. you are now in the home, essentially, of Paul and Kelda. And we try and do that from the get-go. You know, you always, it's that very first interaction with someone walking into your restaurant that sets the tone. Well, I think it does. And it's the warm welcome, the taking the coats, the prompt, showing tables and things like that. And lots of people have often commented that they feel like they're having dinner at someone's house. And in this instance, it's our house, and so we've always abided by the sense that we're a very informal restaurant, doing the formal things well, and playing by the rules of detail, so that all the details, once they get ticked off, you're comfortable, you're confident, you can look after people, and you can do it in a way that makes sense and is warm and is timely, as you said. I guess the way we run the restaurant, being a set menu restaurant and 2 sittings, it's a little bit different, because when we opened it, there wasn't that sort of scenario. It exists. It's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah, it was novel.
It was novel in Wellington. Yeah.
It was a new concept.
And the little kind of sweet little gem of a building in Nado, and it's warm and it's the light's right, and it becomes much more than just the components of it.
Of course.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's got a really audible heartbeat.
Well, that's I think that's
it's
a really
very different to what you were doing previously. I mean, you and Kelda had Nikau for nigh on nearly 20 years.
We sold it 4 days shy of our 20th birthday.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, and I can remember you being there. And I've been in hospitality for not quite as long as you have been, but Nikau was somewhere that people praised and talked about. It was everything. It was that the menu was on point, and Kelda was doing amazing things in the kitchen, and then you were out the front, and the way that you worked together was just, the harmony was amazing.
Yeah.
But if you compare the two, they're like night and day. And especially as far as service goes, because, Nikau was a big operation, right?
Yes, yeah.
How did you decide, or how did you come to that decision of how you wanted Rita to look and come across, and the style of service?
Yeah.
How did you decide
Well, I think
that?
the genesis of that is a couple of things. One thing is when we opened Nico, we were adamant that we wanted, and we're talking 1998.
Yeah.
So that
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Not that long ago.
Quick maths in my head.
Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. And that was in the era of essentially line up, pay for your food, wait for it, counter service.
Yep.
There wasn't anywhere really doing table service, cafe orientated, and we wanted to do that, and that was the get-go. And so we kind of couched in terms of being a daytime restaurant, essentially, but offering obviously from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we were looking to do something a little bit different then, and that was part of our DNA, was trying to do things on our own terms. So there was that kind of muscle memory that went into Rita, that we were going to do things on our own terms. But also we had these little moments, we did this lovely little series of dinners. It was called the Land and Water Forum, and it was a government adjunct body who were exploring what to do with water in New Zealand on all areas of water, the sea, the rivers, and kind of precursor to Three Waters, I would have thought, but they were trying to, and anyway, long story short, we had them every month for dinner, and there'd be 30 people, and they'd come to Nico, and we would give them 3 courses, and there was never a menu printed, and there was never any wine decided on, but they would come, they would eat, I would tell them what they were going to have, and Kelda or whoever was in the kitchen cook for them. And so that was the other element of, well, we can do this. We can do a nighttime scenario. We don't need to be scrambling eggs all our life, and and so when Melbourne comes back into the play, Kelda was in Melbourne. The little building that Rita is was for sale. And,
was it the Aro Deli?
Yes, it was Aro Deli and Heya.
Yep, that's right.
And then closed. They stripped it all out as a way of probably making it a little bit more attractive to the potential buyer. And actually, Kelda and I had always thought about, we needed to do something different. And we thought, should we buy this? and Kelda was in Melbourne. I was in Wellington. Hey, I think I just bought that. We talked about
Whether you like it or not.
yeah.
Guess what we're doing?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, very fortunately, she was like, okay, yeah. And but it straight away stood in that inside Artery, 89 Artery as it is. And she goes, okay, I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to be set. We're going to do 2 sittings, and this is how we're going to make it. We can't afford to be another a la carte restaurant, slightly out of town, that we need it to be from the get-go.
Yes.
And we need to be realised. That was the other thing. We needed it to be something that the minute we open the door, this is what we want. This is how it's going to run. And not be reliant on some sort of evolutionary process over the time. So
cohesive from the start.
Very much so, yeah. Saying that, things have changed over a period of time, of course, as the nature of restaurants.
Yeah.
The Kitchen Day podcast is proudly supported by Upstock. So much of our industry runs on good vibes, but there are corners of our industry that will only thrive with the help of smart tech, and that's Upstock. If you buy or sell wholesale, Upstock is a game changer for your business. It has all of your invoicing, ordering, payments, and logistics in one place. You are going to save hours in your day. To find out more, head to upstock.app.
So there was a little period where we had Nico and Rita dovetailing. So it was breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Oh, wow.
And
how long did that go on for?
9, maybe a year.
Okay.
I think because we opened Rita in 17, sold Nico in 18. So yeah.
Yeah, a year.
About a year. Yeah. Tired.
Yeah.
Very, very
that
tired.
That would have been immense. Also, with all of the emotional energy that goes into opening a new place.
Yeah, exactly.
And protecting it.
Yeah, and also a concept that in some ways was new to people.
Yes.
And having to introduce them to that concept and, like I said earlier, hold their hand and walk them through something and this thing of 2 sittings, I've only got 2 hours. You're going to kick me out? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can do
do that.
courses in that.
Yeah, come on. Off you go. Yeah.
An awful lot of, doing the dance with an awful lot of media attention at the same time, as always follows a new opening.
That's right. Yeah.
And then all of that, explaining.
Yes.
I can't imagine how intense that year must have been for you guys. Were you happy to see Nico closed and
to sell it?
Boxed?
Yeah. It was. I used to have this little Vespa PX250 that I'd ride everywhere, and someone said they saw me going down Brooklyn Hill, shouting at the clouds, "Please buy Nico!" And it was directed to the person who was buying it.
Oh no! Manifesting.
Was it
very much
the
manifesting.
sale of Nico, Paul? Was that very long after? Because I know you'd had to close for a wee while for earthquake strength.
That was 2009,
and that was a massive.
Yeah,
that was a big thing in Wellington, wasn't it, at the time? Because you'd turn up to your building and it'd been red stickered.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
The same thing happened, because I was working across the road from where Rita is now at Ara Cafe.
Of course.
Same thing happened to us, your little yellow sticker. You're like, oh, what's this? And that was so stressful. A lot of cafes just turned up, right, and had these stickers on their doors, and you had to abide by whatever the councillor told you had to do.
Yeah. This was a slightly different scenario in some ways because we were the tenant of the council, and they needed to earthquake strength in the city gallery.
Yep.
And at the time, we were like, oh, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. But when we look back at it, actually, we had 9 months where we could push pause on a business, have some time to ourselves, travelled. I actually went back teaching. I went back relief teaching. I went back
Took the frisbees back with you, yeah.
Well, I did it.
Hey, kids.
Well, it's actually at my boy Zeb's school, and it was his class, and it was great because I knew all the kids.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, Paul, it's 10:30. That's morning tea time." I'm like, "Okay." But we had time to reassess. You never get that really in a business.
Yep.
We push pause, and so when we came back, we were like, "Okay, we've done it for a long time. We need to shake some things up." And some of the things that happened were we closed on Sundays. We need to take time off. It's just, 7 days.
That was 7 days, right?
7 days, yeah. Saturday, we were doing that kind of all-day breakfast scenario, and we're like, why are we doing that? Breakfast is breakfast and lunch is lunch. Why are we doing that? Let's just compartmentalise those 2 things and make that work for the kitchen and... you can be, it's pretty hard to fry a piece of fish while you're scrambling some eggs and expect that both those things are going to be delicious. So we changed that up. A few other things that we did, and it was really helpful to our sense of well-being about the restaurant, the cafe. So in some ways it was a godsend to have 9 months off. Financially, not so much, but And then when we came back, I think we were a better cafe for it. Yeah.
So opening Rita, then you had license to create exactly the kind of business that would fit into your life in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about some of the more intentional decisions that you made when you opened Rita that were lifestyle driven in terms of, because I know Kelda doesn't work at night. That's interesting and novel for our industry to have a chef sort of man a restaurant but not do service. But I find that so inspiring that people
great.
are doing it and it's working. Tell me
well, that comes a little
about
bit back to it's a hard job, physically hard job, and is a job for the youngsters. So it's so nice to a service, and also touching on what I said before, which is the crux of the day is in the day prep, because each night it is just a slightly different menu. There are so they'll come together at 11 o'clock and work out what it is actually we're going to serve that night, and then you pile on top of that all the dietary requirements. Which
So your staff has a bit of input into that, Paul?
Yeah, so Kelda kind of makes the skeletal framework for the week, and sort of what proteins and what main components are for and then they'll nut it out at a little get together at 11 o'clock for that day. So but they've been talking all week. So there's a lot of collaborative, and the great thing is that we have people who've been there for a while, and they've got that institutional history. They're like, you remember when we had artichokes, the first artichoke we did, and so there's that lovely memory bank of dishes and how we do things, and that didn't work, this worked, and so that it's not reliant on just Kelda having all that in her head. So yes, you're right. I mean, Kelda did work nights to start. We were all on board, and we ran with a pretty things evolve. Things really evolve, and there'd be 3 of us on the floor, 3 in the kitchen, 1 expediting. For a small restaurant, that's
quite a big team.
It's quite a big team. Because we just thought we had it to be
everywhere at once.
Yeah, exactly. And so the one thing that came out of COVID was that we lost a table. We lost a front of house staff and a kitchen, 1 member in the kitchen staff, so it was 2 and 2. And everything just sung from that moment on, because we knew we could do it. We'd done a little bit of it leading up to it, and we went, we can do this. And we went down to 4 nights. So coming back to your question about lifestyle and looking after people, suddenly you had a kitchen brigade that were working 4 nights. There's 3 of them, so they'll alternate. 1 week it'll be a day's 2 nights, 2 weeks of nights, sorry. And the tenure and the longevity has come to the fore because Adrian's been there for ages, Nikita's been there for a long time. You hold on to stuff.
It helps you maintain,
helps you maintain your staff levels. And also that we've just, you realise there are people that, it's about relationships, like all things, There are growers that you want to work with. There are people who make wine that you want to work with. And as time passes, you work out the ones you do want to, and you just distance yourself from ones that you possibly don't really need to be wasting. It's not wasting your time, but, you only have limited time.
You get a sense
so
for
it. You get a sense for it, exactly.
So you just kind of talked about relationships there. You and Kelda have had an epically long relationship of working together. What has been your secret of that longevity of that relationship? Because with business partners, you can start on one same trajectory, and it's just natural, right? Over the years, you'll start getting different ideas. But what's been your secret with Kelda? Why do you work so well together? Or how do you work so well together?
I just think when you go through tough times, you bond. So that Nico was tough in the early days. Having to close was tough. Respectfully, it was a good thing. You just bond over things, and also she worked for Mary, my partner's mum, Lois.
Lois Dash.
Yeah. So Lois is kind of like the glue for a lot of what's gone on in our relationship. Like she's been the godmother of culinary.
Wellington dining, New Zealand culinary art.
Absolutely, yeah. And for a little while there, we used to call her Little Lois. Why do we get on? Oh, look, I think we just have shared interests. We have financial interests, but that's beside, that is just another interest. It's not a imperative. I think we like what we do.
Yeah.
We have very similar politics. I know that every day I turn up, that she turns up, and what she delivers on the plate is just ridiculously amazing and delicious. Mm-hmm. And at times it seems effortless, but I know the hard work that goes behind it, and vice versa. So I think we've just got each other's backs.
Yeah, like you're on the same wavelength, right?
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, it's a kind of it's not family, but it is family.
It's just synergy.
It is synergy. Yeah, I think it is.
You probably already know this, but I'll say it anyway. That really translates when you're a diner at Rita, because Rita has been for a long time and still is mine and Hayden's special occasion restaurant. Yeah. We don't often get chances to go out without the kids, but that time will come. But that sense of every dish looking effortless, like there is a real sense of approachability to the food, but then the moment you begin to enjoy it and experience the different flavors, you very quickly get an understanding of just how much thought and work and skill has gone into each course. And you guys do that for a new menu every single day.
So where are you getting your inspiration? You're doing this daily. Every time. Where's the inspiration coming? No, I mean,
I'm just the making.
You just turn up, hey, and
it would almost be worth a podcast just to record that little chef's meeting.
Yep.
Because the two,
that's an invitation.
The back and forward,
all right.
No, I'm not offering kelda. But it is. It's a lovely little moment of ideas being thrown up and tossed aside, and another one, and it just happens. It just seems to be naturally that they're all generally in sync.
So it goes back to what you were talking about previously, where you're surrounding yourselves with these, what did you say, people of different generations, and they're bringing the inspiration to the table.
And experiences. Okay,
so it's the people you're surrounded with. That's where you're getting your inspiration from.
And Kelda's amazing in the sense that she kind of knows.
Yeah,
she knows what's right and what's good.
Yeah.
But she allows that discussion to be had, even if it's fruitless. Mm-hmm. She'll still allow it. She'll still allow them to grow in that way, and it's really fascinating watching people come in, especially in the kitchen, and it's not an indoctrination, but it's just a kind of bringing you close to Kelda kind of moment where they start to realise, that's how we do it here. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that are important. The layer, you're talking about the layers and layers and layers of work that goes into each dish, because you look at it and go, it's kind of a simple plate of food, and then you scoop it up and you realise, there's something else going on there. Yeah.
I want to sidestep a little bit, if that's all right, and ask. So you've obviously been doing this a while, and you've seen service in its current iteration change over the years. I'm really intrigued to know, in your perspective, because what we do is such a dance between us and our guests, and what guests need at any given time is quite different. Something like COVID, something as big and significant as COVID on the timeline, how has service changed post-COVID in your perspective? Is there something that guests need more of or less of from us now? What's their relationship like with hospitality in your mind now?
I think that empathy. I mean, you could go back to Jacinda and say, be kind. Mm-hmm. And that translate into the restaurant as empathy. Because, and a little bit about what I was saying about earlier about that storytelling, you never know quite what's happened in someone's life before, or during their day, or whatever it might be when they sit down. Mm-hmm. And so I think probably a big shift in terms of having a little bit, it's not paint by numbers anymore. It's, there's not a rote component to it. Everything's slightly different, but it has to be done in a way that is warm and generous. Yeah. I don't think that's quite answering your question, but I think the change has been well, work from home is a huge thing, isn't it? You know, in terms of Wellington, if we had a second chance, I don't know if we'd open Nico again for that reason. You know, there's just, cafes seem to be having a hard time of it on that front, whereas you quite happily would open a bakery, you know, that sold good coffees. That seems to be the moment of the, you know, and you look at the swimsuit boys doing a roaring trade and on Victoria Street.
And,
is it on Victoria Street? April? No, what's the little patisserie that's coming that way?
April,
yes. You know, things like that. You'd probably revisit what it is that you would do.
Yeah, I mean, look at the following that James at Baker Gramercy has, right, down in Berwickore.
Well, yeah.
And he's very similar to Ewan Kilda's ethos. He knows what he wants to do, and he sticks to that.
Absolutely.
And he's not going to be dictated by anybody else.
No.
And he just
does
what he does
clear vision.
Well,
it's interesting you raised James, because one of you, I remember you asked a question about where I think some of the best services in Wellington. And my mind actually just went straight to those guys.
Yep.
At Gramercy.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So I have this little Saturday ritual. I'll always work Friday night, so it's a relatively late night, but it does not stop me getting up at 7 to be at, sounds a bit pointy-ended, but to be at Gramercy by about 7:30, 20 to 8.
to beat the line.
To beat the line. You've got to beat the line.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Violet is there, and I'll hand her my little bag, and she knows exactly what to put in it, and she smiles, and then the line's suddenly there, but does not stop her smiling. How's your day, Paul?
Yeah.
Good week. Here's your oat. Here's your oat. I shop for other people, so don't take me wrong when I say that. I get 2 oats, Campania, a baguette, 2 Sally
I'll have
Lunds.
the lot.
Sally Lunds,
I go have the Sally Lunds, You go have the Sally Lunds.
Yeah.
But they all are there and smiling. And it's, you know, it's 7:30 on a Saturday morning. It's the end of their working week. Yeah. But they're all, hey, Paul, they know your name, they know your order. There's just something beautiful about it. And it comes back to James and his very true vision of what he wanted to do, and that space is beautiful.
Yeah,
you know, and I know that's my weekly experience of having someone look after me and know my name, and that's lovely. But in some ways, it's really special. I always come, you know, sometimes James will pop out, the chief will pop out, and he wants to talk football and how the week's going, and tell me that he's got some duck that he's confying for dinner, and you feel euphoric. You know, it's the perfect start to a Saturday.
You've just hit the nail on the head there, Paul, when you've said it's special.
It's special.
It's that connection. You know, you might have a 30-second window there where you've got a bit of a connection with a customer.
Yeah.
And it's about how they walk away from that interaction. And if they, like you just said, if you feel special and you feel good, they're going to go back.
Totally. Yeah. And the line is perfect testament to that.
That's the secret.
I had a staff member, actually just yesterday, I settled up an account for a regular who comes in every day.
Yep.
She's a beautiful woman named Pamela, and she always gets 2 long Macs with cinnamon on top, and she'll sit and chat, and we know her and she knows us. And when new staff start, as part of their induction, we introduce them to Pammy, and
the Pammy moment.
Yes, and
good.
let them know what her coffee order is, so that she never has to ask. And one of the younger staff said to me, I can't imagine going somewhere every day, the same place. And I said, well, you know, and he said to me, I wonder what sparked it for her. And I said, well, we've become part of her family. And families love each other. And, you know, that extends way beyond what a traditional sense of love might be. But for us, it's warmth and welcoming and a hug at the door, and we always farewell her, and she always gets her table, and, you know, those soft little touch points, because those are the things. Now, she doesn't come for the coffee. You know, she comes for,
interaction, right?
And without bringing it up too much, my heart broke for people like Pammy during COVID.
Yes.
You know, and the rest of us who didn't get to come and, you know, engage with our communities in the way that we do, in the way that we like to every day, in ways that fill our cup, because ultimately that's what hospitality, particularly service, does for people, is it fills their cup.
Yeah,
you do it well.
You can be a bit of a therapist sometimes for people. It might be their only interaction for the day.
That's exactly right.
Super important they walk away from that, like you say, feeling special.
Well, it's a huge responsibility. I mean, I have to tell you, I had a sort of semi-visceral reaction when you were talking about the way that you and Jesse Sherlock extract those stories from guests. I think that is one of the most beautiful ways I've ever heard service described, especially intentional,
Yeah.
compassion-driven service.
Yeah.
You know, it's that thing that Danny Meyer says, collect the dots so you can connect the dots.
Yeah.
For me, that's really the space that I feel like deserves more of a platform, because you've gone way past just the active service, the bringing of food to the table and the clearing of plates.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're playing in that human connection space. I'm not exactly sure what my question is here. I just want to hear you talk more about it, because it's such a beautiful
that
topic.
Danny Meyer's a really good quote. But also going back to Pammy and the sense of community. Both my parents were ministers in the Presbyterian Church.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a religious person. I probably left the church when I was 18. But I do remember, I feel like my very first, this is a long-winded story, I will get there, but my very first catering gig was putting out all the Art Croc teacups after church on a Sunday morning, putting the zip on. I'd fold the order of service. So it was a bit like, getting the menu ready for, So that was the kind of grounding in the church. And the care and the pastoral care has always been with me. Lois actually used to always call the customers at Nico my flock.
Wow.
Pastor Paul looking after his flock.
Wow.
And so it was that care. It was that empathy. It was the ensuring everyone was okay. And at Nico it was quite different, because you had that, much like Pammy, you had the people coming 2-3 times a day for coffee.
Yeah.
Certain people. I can still remember probably easily a dozen orders.
Yeah.
Like that,
You must pass them in the supermarket and think, oh, there goes cappuccino.
Herbie Scrams. Yeah.
There go Herbie Scrams.
Herbie Scrams. Yeah, exactly. And so that sense of the church and what a church means in terms of fellowship and looking after one another has always been strong in me. I'm still not a religious person, but I've always admired what Mum and Dad instilled in me. And Dad was quite progressive in his ways. He was very vocal for homosexual law reform. He marched against the Springbok tour, and he always talked about that as a family, as a way of, we've got to look after people. We've got to look after people who are, less fortunate than us. And whilst, I'm not saying that's happening in a cafe, that people are less fortunate, but you welcome them with that kind of congregational, no, that's not the word, but congregational,
yes.
Thank you, and that's always stuck with me. And so that you try and interpret how service can be through that sort of style of being there for others, for being warm, for looking after people. It's not a new or innovative way of doing service, but that certainly impacted on me through my life.
I feel like there must have been a point in your career when you realised that this was now something that you were very good at and were going to do. Was that early on? Did that come later? When did you realise that, okay, this is who I am now in these businesses, and this is what
I think probably
I bring?
in Melbourne. I think in Melbourne I had 2 incredibly good mentors, I guess, or contemporaries. Michael Sapuntsis, who ran the Melbourne Wine Room and married to Karen Martini. We worked together at the Dogs Bar, and a guy called Simon Denton, who I worked with at the Adelphi, and both so meticulous about details and how we should run restaurants. But the best people in the world. So much fun, so much joy, so delightful to be around, that you could see that he was a skill in a profession that you can be involved in, and you could continue to learn till the cows come home, because there's just such a variety of things to learn in the world of restaurants and food and wine. And I still, to this day, think that those 2 are the ones who went, yeah, Paul, you can do this. You can continue on your merry way doing this.
Are you still in contact with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, interesting enough, Rob Wilkinson, who opened Capitol with Tom, he was in Melbourne soon after I was, and he went for a job at the Melbourne Wine Room with Michael, and Michael goes, Kiwi, aren't you? I'm just going to hire you because you remind me of my friend Paul.
Wow.
And straight off the bat, he got the job. And there was a moment when Rob and I were out for dinner once, and we went for a glass of water, reached and drank, and We both looked at each other and went, tepid water. Michael would never allow that. It's always ice cold.
There's that little bonding moment, right? That little snippet you're taking away from him.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And now you're going to be that person for people like Jesse and so many people who've come up
I think
you
that,
at Rita.
I think that's true.
I mean, you and I have got one person in common that we've both worked with, Tim Norris. Right? And Tim will probably be embarrassed if I'm going to bring this up, but I can remember that he was working down at Customs. And I think I've got the story right. He took a little break and he said, he came and had a chat with me. He goes, Chris, I'm going to go and just work at Nikau. I want to go and learn from the best. And I can remember him being super nervous.
Yeah.
He'll probably tell you the story too. He was very nervous about the first time that he came and worked with you. But when he came away, I can't remember how long he worked for you, but when he came away, he said it was just the best experience and he learned so much and it changed. I saw a change because he came back to Customs then after that.
He did, yeah.
And I saw an immediate change in him. Just his, I don't know, he had a new outlook on the way to run a cafe, how to treat people, his service, his mannerism. It was all different.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see.
Oh, that's nice.
It really was.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't mind me telling you that. I'll probably embarrass the shit out of him. And I've probably got the story wrong, but
let's just run with
that's what I noticed. You know, it was an immediate change, you know. But, you know, we've all been in hospitality. We've got a bit of experience sitting around the table here, and we all know that hospitality or service won't always run smoothly.
Ooh,
and I'm going to go on a little segue here because I know at Rita, you've got a little table there. It's nicknamed, have I got this right? The curse table? Is that what we call it?
It's jinxed.
It's jinxed. It's
very
the
much
jinxed table,
yeah.
So
Every
service
restaurant
can't.
has a
It
curse
doesn't
table.
matter how good you are. Do you want to tell us a bit more about this, the jinxed table?
Well, for some reason, when we first opened, it's table 10. We had
I'll
a couple.
definitely not ask for that table.
Well, that's where you guys were sitting the other night. Sometimes maybe the jinx has been, you know.
Yeah.
So, table 10. Just seemed to be 3 little moments that happened in the space of maybe a year when we first were there, and some customers who came in and they were very loud and buoyant and didn't read the room, couldn't see that their enjoyment was impacting on other people. Another person who was just a little bit drunk and ended up just walking out. Best one though was a American couple. This is a different story to what you're thinking of. Who I was serving. It's the middle of summer, the doors are open, the windows are open, and I'll wear shorts when it's hot. You know, it's that kind of restaurant. I'll wear shorts. When people leave TripAdvisor reviews, we just leave them alone. Mm-hmm. You starve them of oxygen, that's fine. Like if someone's got a problem, fine. No problems at all.
Never step into the sandpit.
Do not step into the sandpit because you're just going to get sand in your eyes and it's all going to turn bad. This person, her review was that her waiter, who was wearing shorts and had hairy legs and Crocs in a fine dining restaurant, was just not how it should be. And I'm like, oh.
Is she the lady that took the photo of your...
No. So I'm like, I can't let this one rest. I can't let this one.
Yeah.
Well, that one I just mostly because I've never worn Crocs.
I was going to say.
I had to get the record straight.
That's the point I
had
would
to get the record
contest
straight.
too.
Yeah. So I did. I took a photo of myself with my Crocs, with my Birks on.
With your Birkies.
Yeah. And replied to this woman, never to be heard of again.
Yeah.
Which in itself is an interesting thing, the online presence of restaurants.
Yeah.
You know, that's
a whole
thing.
other podcast.
Yeah.
But the night you were dining, these very animated couple who had a pitch that was just above everyone else's, and they were so excited about life and being there.
It was an interesting twang, wasn't it?
Twang.
Yeah.
And the top of conversation was possibly not appropriate for a small, intimate dining restaurant like ours.
Right.
And I could see that either side of these two people,
it's quite intimate, isn't it?
It's very intimate, yeah. And it was all two, so there's no
big group
bulkhead where you could.
change it.
That's right. No, shift the dynamic anyway. And so going back to table 10, the drunk couple, and it was in the first year that we opened, and I just said to her, hey, I wonder if you could just keep your voice down a little bit. And the minute I said it, I knew that was a mistake. But I was anxious.
Yeah.
It's our fresh restaurant. It just wasn't quite right. And she started crying.
Oh, man.
But I didn't see her crying at the time. I'd walked away. And her husband then came and bailed me up and put his finger on my chest and told me so and so and so and so and so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going from bad to worse.
Going from bad to worse. And I'm like, and I was so apologetic. And I went to talk to her and I apologized profusely and, and tried to make things right. But that wasn't going to happen. So straight away, table 10 had this kind of energy. So you're sitting on table 10.
Yeah.
This other couple are on table 4, but making a lot of noise. And I had in my head the time I made a woman cry by trying to mitigate the volume. And so I just went over to her and I put my hand on her shoulder and said, I think you're really enjoying tonight, aren't you? And left it at that.
And she immediately...
Straight away, she knew what I was talking about.
Just hushed up. And my wife, Emma, I hope she doesn't mind me saying that, but she immediately just reached over to the table and said, you need to go and find out what Paul just said. But it had an immediate impact. But it was still positive. They still sat there, didn't they? And they enjoyed their meal.
I think so.
They didn't get up and walk out.
No.
I think they were still there when I
left. No, I think, I don't feel like
yeah.
they were going to go home and write the TripAdvisor review about the guy with the hairy legs.
No, they definitely were. And just the way that you handled it was just complete professionalism.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing. It was amazing to watch, Paul. It really was.
Well, I'd let my lesson with our friend, whose name I won't tell you.
But that's why you're the master. I find that is, because I've been very lucky to have heard that story before, and I'm so excited when you got to that end bit, because having just being able to visualize that whole encounter, I was having I was feeling that experience of discomfort when you've got that one guest who is just the thorn.
Yeah.
And they're really starting to send ripples and it's impacting the rest of the dining room. Yeah. But you also know you can't go too direct. You can't hit the nail on the head. You've got to come at it sort of with the arm around the shoulder energy and invite them into the solution with you.
Yes, it's that little hermetically sealed space that we were talking about.
But having to make that judgment call in that environment with that in that split second and have it land like that, I feel like that is, for me, that is as skillful and as masterful as one of the world's greatest chefs creating like the most beautiful souffle.
You had to see
whatever.
it because it was amazing. I don't want to embarrass you, Paul, but it just was. It was awesome. But not all experiences are going to be like that, right?
No.
So I mean, you have sometimes your negative experiences, but Rita is such a beautiful restaurant. You sit in there, it just everything for me is perfect. You must have had some, like on the flip side of that, some really amazing experiences as well, just like when either service has been really good or you've had some guests there that have just really enjoyed themselves. And you've got
so many stories like that. I think the nice thing about Rita is you kind of have to jump through some hoops to get there. Like it's not
straightforward, right?
You got to
just bowl up.
You don't. I mean, walk-ins is great. We'd love that, but it's not practical.
Yeah.
So that people who are there for a good reason. Well-intentioned. And generally, so from my perspective, 99% of people who walk in that door want to be there.
Yep.
So the kind of we eliminate the dicks, dare I say. And so you're off on the right footing straight away, and coming back to that storytelling, then you hear about people, and you make connections. And actually talking about my Melbourne buddies, we had this lovely couple from Melbourne. She's the som at Julia in Abbotsford.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And he's winemaker at Gembrook Hills in Yarra Valley. And the minute you find that out, you go, do you know this person and that person? Caretaker's Cottage, it's my cousin's son, Matt, and these connections. And it's so uplifting for you as a person to
Absolutely.
go, I can enhance their dining experience, but by just having a chat. And it's a chat because can be pretty rote. Mm-hmm. If you break it all down into its fundamental cause, it's a pretty
stepped process,
isn't
it?
Yeah, it's pretty homogenous in the way that But then you add people into that process and their stories. That's when it starts to sing.
Yeah.
And so, I think majority of people walk out of the door, and we make sure that we walk out the door with them, or that's one of the big tenets of it for us.
The last touch point.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you do it beautifully, that you've got to make sure, because it's not transactional. The money part's transactional, but the love continues till they've left your place.
Yeah, it goes back to that special interaction that you were talking about with James and Gramercy. That's what people are getting when they come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we're very lucky in terms of the people that come in the door. We generally have good experiences, people, and now that we're 8 years, people understand how we roll. So there's no kind of less and less of the, we've got to move you along, we need to we need to get you out so we can reset for the next sitting.
Yeah.
And there are regulars.
Yep.
For a little space like that I like that achievement, that people are coming quarterly.
Yeah.
And that's a regular for us, as opposed to the Nico days of
every day Herbie scrams.
Yeah, Herbie scrams. And
do you miss those days, Paul? Do you miss the Nico days?
I really miss the flock.
Yeah.
I really miss the community of people at Nico, because it was much more than just the cafe. It was the art gallery. That was an incredible component of what we did in the cafe. That synergy with the City Art Gallery. And just seeing people, because it's a different experience. You've got time to chew the fat. You lean on the bar, and at Nico you can, and you get to made some lifelong friends out of the time. Whereas at Rita, it's a bit more, you don't want to be chat too long. You don't want to be impinging on people's nice evening, because a lot of people are there for a birthday or an anniversary, and it's about their interactions. So I miss that part of it. I miss making coffee. I love being on the coffee machine. Well, of my choosing, not Saturday morning breakfast.
I was going to say, there's a few people in town that'll employ you if you want to go back into the coffee machine.
We're hiring.
Sounds like you just got yourself a job on Saturday morning, so no more Baker Gramercy.
Oh, man. But I just love being on the machine, because you talk smack.
I love it too. I mean, there are far better baristas than I, but I love sending our baristas for a break and taking over the machine just for 10 or 15 minutes and having that. It's a real magnet at Flows, and it's a space where the staff congregate and the guests. It's central to the space.
But they come to you and you're working so that you own that relationship in some way. So
it's
you have
sort of on your time.
Absolutely.
But also you can be, I really encourage our baristas to be the host of the most without running to the door. Every time somebody, I mean, you've already mentioned it, but every time somebody steps over the threshold of your business, they are signaling that they want to spend time with you, but they also really need to be seen immediately. That's
imperative. It's absolutely imperative.
What all guests want is a very basic human need to be seen and acknowledged, and if I can't get to the door fast enough, or somebody else can't get to the door fast enough, the barista can certainly lock eyes with that person, regardless of what their hands are doing, because you can steam milk and look away, you can extract a shot and look away, with a very big hi, good morning, and you've just bought yourself another 50, 60 seconds before somebody has to rush.
They're often that first point of contact, right? It's like your maitre d' restaurant, there's your barista, it's right there.
Your
coffee machine is front.
That act of making coffee. I can see why you miss that on a
I do,
but also daytime operation.
In the days when you just didn't want to front up to people.
Yes,
you just look down, put your head down.
Yes, it is. It can be like a barrier.
Well, it is. Yeah.
So if you look at the kind of evolution of your career, Paul, you're at Nikau, where you're working long hours. You now have Rita, and you're making it work for you. What are you doing outside of work? That's like Dom says, filling your cup.
What fills your cup?
How do you reset yourself? What are your interests outside of work?
We're really lucky that we live on a little bit of Wellington hillside that has some fertile ground, so the garden actually.
Green thumb.
Yeah, well, I do. I'm not a green thumb, but I bash away at it. I dabble. Yeah. So I do love being at home and being outdoors. There's nothing better than, I find, just pottering away in the garden. But I've also come to running quite late in my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you doing that with a group or?
There's a bunch of people who I run with.
Yeah. Because that's becoming more and more popular, right?
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Especially in hospital. Yeah.
Yeah. I always couldn't work out why you'd go running if you weren't chasing a soccer ball or a frisbee or a basketball. You know, they were
Or a
like
child.
or a child. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I've played cards with these guys for 25 years, and we play poker once a month, and you host it and you cook some food for them. And one night it was quite late, and one of them goes, "I'm keen to run the Queenstown Marathon. Anyone keen?" And we're all a bit hammered, and we go, yeah,
I'll sign up, sure.
Yeah, bring it on. And suddenly you're going, well, we've signed up for a marathon.
Wow.
And so that started a passage where I just started running. And I realised actually I derive a huge amount of physical fulfillment from running, but also mental, because it's the headspace to be away from everything. So you can spend time thinking about the business, or you can not while you're running, and quite often it's not.
Yeah.
Do you run unplugged, or are you listening to something?
I won't listen to a podcast. If anything, I'll listen to music.
Mm-hmm. Who are you listening to at the moment?
Comes back to the young people.
Yes. Oh yes, do tell.
Well, a bit of the young people, but also actually come back to Rita real quickly, because one of the things I really love about Rita of a day is that in our bathroom we used to have my little iPod Shuffle,
Right.
and it had 110 albums on it, and they were all basically 90s hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd play one of those albums a night, and it was just on loop. And so that was I loved choosing who it would be. So it'd be, De La Soul, or it'd be The Tribe, or some Gangstar or something like that. And so I quite often will run to that type of music.
Mm-hmm.
But then, having a 25-year-old son, suddenly you're getting, hey, Pops, have you listened to this? Have you listened, Corey Champion and the Clear Path Ensemble, or what it might be? And so I'd happily listen to anything, to be honest. I don't. I'm really quite open to, and that's one of the questions I'll often ask of the young people at work. What are you listening to?
Yeah.
So yeah. So the running thing is big.
Yeah.
Just kind of filling the cup by just. I don't know the answer beyond that. I think I've got to a point where I can just quite happily sit in a chair in my lounge and watch the clouds.
Yeah.
I don't shout at them, but I just
Not anymore.
That was
Don't have anything to sell, so
yeah.
Oh wow.
Paul, this has been, I cannot tell you how much of a pleasure this has been. I could listen to you talk about service for hours.
Well, that's
and in
right.
fact, I'd quite like to, except we're getting the time call. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Pleasure.
This has
Pleasure.
been just such a joy. I mean, Chris and I started this podcast to have exactly these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
Service focused, with people who love service as much as we do and appreciate the art and the skill of it. And you really are one of the best to ever do it. So it has been fascinating to get some of your insights and to share those with people. I have one parting question.
Yeah.
You may or may not have something on the horizon, but if you were making a reservation in Wellington next, where would you be going?
Good question. Well, interesting enough, I do have a reservation.
Oh, do you?
Well, it's not a reservation as such.
It's a
lunch date. So there's some friends of ours who bought a Roger Walker house, architect.
Yes.
It's Des Britton's old house.
Oh, yes.
In Karaka Bay. And so come November, we're having a lunch there where we're going to cook from the Des Britton cookbook from 1978. So we're talking a lot of beef Wellington, some aspic, a whole lot of brandies, everything, some
my God.
So that'll be something, because it's such a lovely little playhouse of a house,
Yeah.
steeped in Des, but yes, a little 70s lunch.
And what are you going to be drinking?
Well, this is the
Who are you
$1
going
million
to be drinking?
question, hey? Yeah. I mean, it would obviously be some Chablis or some
Yes.
claret, but I think not much of that would, I don't know, from the 70s. Well,
Yeah. South African pinotage.
Pinotage, yeah, really. Something out of a
Cask.
Oh,
A freely the cask.
Yeah.
Oh, make sure you post those photos on Instagram,
I will,
please. I will not be
I
the
will.
only person dying to see that spread.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But can I tip my cap to you two for what you two have been doing? Those kitchen days, it's fantastic. And then this is
thank you.
as an initiative, it's really important that the voices are heard of people in this industry. And honestly, I think this has been a wonderful initiative. I've been really fortunate to come to a couple of the kitchen days. And talking about filling your cup, really, I mean, Tommy was truly magic to hear the voice of someone like that, and for you two to facilitate that and open your doors here. That's a very generous act. So I'd say thank you to both you two. Yeah.
Well, that means a lot coming from you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
The Kitchen Day podcast is recorded and produced by John O'Tucker at Empire Films. We film here at Rita, where we get to hear incredible stories from some of New Zealand's most talented front of house professionals. If you enjoyed today's conversation and you know somebody else who might like to hear it too, I would love it if you would share it with them, or better yet, hit subscribe. It's a little thing like that that helps us to continue to bring these stories to you in season 2 and beyond. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a great service.